Hi everybody, thank you for joining on to today's webinar. This is Conrad Agramont. I'm the Director of Technology Services. This is part 3 of a 3-part webinar series that we put together. Today it's the EMS for the administrator's perspective, or from the administrator's perspective. Each one of the webinars was focusing on kind of a different perspective. We're really happy to have again with us I'm Gott, who's our partner technology strategist at Microsoft. He's done a great job in the previous session, and we'll do it again here today. And we also have Brian Long, who's our sales director here at Agile IT. Okay, so again, this is our 3rd part of the series. I think the first 2 sessions has gone really well, really focused specifically on the areas that we wanted to talk about. 30-minute sessions, so it's really kind of bite-sized and allows us to kind of really get to the meat of the content right away and have some really great demos, and that's been a focus part of it. So I am today really promises again to kind of come through and show some really great demos, really focusing on the administrator's perspective. So what's not really detailed in the webinar series is kind of the how and the deployment and all that plumbing. We really wanted to focus on end product. So, at the end of the day, for an end user, how did they use EMS to make sure things are secure and I can get to my applications, and really building on the capabilities of Office 365 and really extending them with Azure and some of the other pieces. And so today we're going to focus more on the administrator's perspective. So looking from them, once it's been deployed, end users have it, what are the sorts of options that they have? What are the views that they have going into EMS? So something I'm sure lots of people who are IT directors or CIOs or even the persons responsible really kind of focus on that today. Again, so these were the ones that are available. If you go to agilet.com, you'll find links to the previous sessions, and you can go to from there. All right, so we're going to go through today, again, some of the key hot topics. So I'll talk about Azure Active Directory and Intune Rights Management in a second, but I'm just going to go through each one of those, and we'll have a demo. It doesn't always have to be a big demo at the end, but sometimes it is. And then next steps. So we'll get right to it. Again, when we talk about Enterprise Mobility Suite, for those of you who have not been on, that have not been on in the previous webinars, Enterprise Mobility Suite is really a collection of technologies all pulled together because they really solve a kind of unique but unified experience that's happening out there today. So really with a unified identity, where my identity that I have, where I log into my computer, access my corporate resources, these really are the same. That identity can then be used across a number of properties, both that Microsoft owns with Office 365, as well as other third-party applications and services that are out on the cloud. And really, I don't have to manage multiple identities, and it also provides better protection for IT administrators, because now when they want to disable access to all those services, instead of going through it and one by one to the websites, turning them off, you can really just disable it at the corporate environment and shut it all down. So great stuff for the end user, one username and password. Great stuff for IT administrators, one place to manage all of that access. So really cool stuff. Microsoft Intune, again, really this is about managing apps and devices, and this is both about managing kind of the traditional view of PCs and devices, but also being able to push out and containerize applications onto devices, things that they, and Microsoft, I'll say, has done a great job of just not doing this for Microsoft phones, but also iPhones and Android. So really providing a wide breadth of capabilities of the types of devices that they can secure. And along with Azure Rights Management, documents that get sent out to the wild. So let's say a document that somebody has a protected folder. Well, once you have access to that folder and you get access to the documents, normally they're mine. I can stick them on a USB drive and cart them around however I want, even if I left the company 20 years ago. But with Azure Rights Management, I can put greater protection that essentially is bound to the document directly. So I can have a Word document and a protected folder. Person that does have rights goes into it. They're able to then take that, open it wherever they want. But as soon as they change roles or change organizations, they'll no longer have access to that document. Even if it's on a USB drive at a home PC, it's going to be protected, and now they can't get access to it. It's basically just garbage. So that's one of the things in rights management. Lots more in all these. I'd really encourage you to see the other sessions if you haven't already. So that said, we're going to go ahead and I'll turn it over to Diane to really talk about the end user's perspective, or I'm sorry, the administrator's perspective when it comes to EMS.
Great, thank you, and welcome back, everyone. This is Gott with Microsoft, and happy to have you here for our third installment of this webinar series focused on the Enterprise Mobility Suite. And kicking right off into things, this session about the administrative aspects of it, I wanted to focus on what does the administrator see, and how does the organization effectively leverage the Enterprise Mobility Suite. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of content here, starting with this first slide in terms of how you manage your organization. What we've done is listen to administrators' feedback, and we're always doing this, whether it's customers in terms of features, functionality, or in this case, how can administrators work more efficiently in terms of securing the organization and have at their fingertips, the tools, portals, resources they need, to manage the Enterprise Mobility Suite. And if you look here at the bottom left, this is actually an Office 365 tenant, and this is why we see a lot of Office 365 customers too leverage, purchase the EMS Enterprise Mobility Suite, with their Office 365 subscription, because we've integrated the components of the Enterprise Mobility Suite directly into Office 365. Sure, you can use many of the functionalities of EMS standalone, but here you can see there's a number of the key components listed out, right? So you have Azure Active Directory down below there, you have Intune, and then rights management services is a little bit different because it's more integrated into also Azure AD, since it's Azure Rights Management Services. So I'll be taking you through each of those areas, but this just gives you a glimpse of sort of what does this look like in terms of management. So if we go ahead and move on to the next slide here in terms of just sort of the example of the management experience, and I'm going to go to a live demo shortly here, since we don't have a lot of slides to cover in this aspect of the administrative side of it. If I were to go into the Azure AD portion, I actually enter my Azure AD subscription in tenant, and whether or not I'm using Azure for other things, Office 365 and Enterprise Mobility Suite are using Azure AD as its underlying technology, right? So for the directory services, and what we have here is Azure AD Premium. So many of the premium features we talked about before, whether it's single sign-on to the 2,400 plus applications, or it's working with multi-factor authentication for cloud or on-premise applications, your two-factor authentication, or it's working on configuration or directory integration for single sign-on through Active Directory Federation services. That's all sort of done here, along with domain management and some of the advanced security reporting too that you get with Enterprise Mobility Suite that we didn't really talk a lot about in the previous sessions, but we will show some examples of those reports and such here. And then you see the Azure toolbar, and I'll move to a live demo here shortly, but the Azure toolbar, if you were managing other areas of Azure or considering to work with infrastructure as a service or Azure websites, you have that all sort of in the same console here, accessible across the different platforms. So on to our next slide here will be sort of that snapshot of the Intune workspace. This is a pretty simple dashboard. Intune, as we talked about from an administrative perspective, can be a standalone product, or as we talked about in the series, is included with the Enterprise Mobility Suite. And Intune here can be managed through the web, as I'm going to show you today, or it can be integrated with your System Center strategy. So if you're using System Center Configuration Manager, for example, and you want that single pane of glass, to manage, report, and work with mobile devices, tablets, PCs, etc., you can do that either with System Center, or the Intune, the Microsoft Intune web-based enabled portal from anywhere, really at any time, and leveraging single sign-on, credentials and identity, to manage the Android, iOS, Windows Phone, Windows PC-based devices, and there's some roadmap in terms of extending functionality around additional Mac, endpoints and such that'll be managed down the road. But here's where we do all that work, and this ties in nicely again with Office 365, because what's important in terms of ensuring not only users that have their BYOD or you bring your own devices to the workplace are accessing what they should, that they're doing it from a device that's securely. And I'm going to take you through here in the next portion of today's webinar, with the overview of an actual live tenant, stepping through some of the daily administrative sort of activities, and such that an admin might do on the platform. And if we go ahead and move to the next portion of the webinar here, I have kind of one more screenshot example of in that same Azure management experience. This is the Azure Active Directory rights management portion. So what we have here is a number of different policies, for rights management status, whether it's assigned or inactive, authorized, inactive. These are just some examples. And this is how we create policies that will be available, to a user. So I might have a policy that restricts copy paste or screen capture or forwarding of a message, and a number of different sort of policies. And what's exciting about this, and you'll hear more about RMS down the road, is Microsoft, we just acquired another security-based company that's going to extend the rights management service capabilities that customers get access to in EMS even further. And look out for another upcoming webinar series that we're working on, to provide even more insight into some of those security acquisitions Microsoft's made and such. So here we will go into the EMS demo, and I am going to my screen. So thank you guys for that. And if Conrad or Brian could just let me know once my screen is loaded for the audience here, that'd be great.
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to jump right into my live demo here, where I'm actually in this Office 365 tenant. I'm in the admin center, and I'd often come in here as an admin to manage and maintain not only the Office 365 environment, but if you see down here at the bottom left, it was one of the areas that I'd highlighted a few minutes ago. You have the Office 365 admin components, and they're broken out by several of the workloads. Here, for example, is where I can go, right into the Intune portal. And so, if I click in here into the Intune portal, it'll open up a tab here, and here I've got my single pane, of glass in terms of my management dashboard. That's up. I've got my portal up here that I clicked on if I was on my Azure AD node here to open that in this new tab here. And here's where I can manage the identity aspect of Enterprise Mobility Suite. And I'm going to take you through this a little bit here. And not only do you have, as I mentioned, the Azure Active Directory side of things, we have a number of different things related to Azure services. And you can see I'm not using a number of these in this particular example, but if you were a customer that was using websites or mobile services or machine learning, or some of the other advanced capabilities in Azure, they would be here, available to you as well. You don't have to go to another console. What's great about this is sort of where it all starts with identity, right? So you have sort of this, familiar look and experience as it relates to the portal and the administration side. So if I go here on the right-hand side, you can see I've got my Active Directory, and this is actually the same domain that I'm using in the Office 365 tenants, because I'm using that for single sign-on. And a number of things can be done in here in terms of configuring, my particular setup of my directory. And a number of areas of this have already been set up, for the demo. But if you don't have Azure AD Premium, you can even buy or add it, here, or you can add other domains and such. And I'm just going to move along to the domains. And so you can see this cloudandben.com, test domain is a verified domain in here. You can see some of the similar concepts, right? And I get this question a lot. What are we doing around Active Directory in the cloud? And that's all built around Azure AD. And the administrative look and feel of this is only growing in terms of capabilities and the experience for the admin to support the things they need to do to keep an organization secure, to manage users and identities and such. And so when I click in here into my user identities, you can see there's a number of identities, that are in here. For example, here's my particular account, and you can see I can manage. This is a cloud-based identity, and within here you can see my number of areas of information for this identity that they're stored in here. I can turn off or disable access for the identity. And such. And if this was synchronized with my Active Directory, that would flow in here as well. And you can kind of see the differentiation of what identities come from which environment. And I can go ahead and remove or modify these different identities based on where they came from. Same idea with groups. So I've got a number of groups configured in here as well. Here's a group that I'm using for targeting for Exchange Online users for Intune. So these are some cloud-based security groups that I've created as an administrator, and I can drill into this particular group and see who the members are, take a look at the owners. I could set myself as the owner if that was something I wanted to do here, as well. I'm stepping through the screen here. This gets a little interesting because I'm sharing my screen, so I'll just go ahead back here. But and I was zooming in on this a little bit for you guys too, so resize that out. So I can continue to look at the group in terms of properties and such, and how this group is managed from the Active Directory premium perspective. And you'll see certain things noted here in the portal, like certain areas of preview functionality that I might want to take a look at or test. This is for enablement of dynamic membership, say based on a query, an attribute, such. So I could have a dynamic membership for a group that was looking at the department for sales, and then those folks were all part of the Exchange Online sales group that might be tied in with Intune to push a particular sales application like CRM Online, right, to those users. And then there's some areas of self-service activity as it relates to the group and sort of things that might have been going on from an audit or historic perspective. In here as well, this is where I manage my applications. So you're going to see some familiar icons or product names in here. And what I have in here are various applications that are published to, in our previous sessions, we talked about the My Apps portal, and single sign-on, whether you're on a mobile device or you're on a browser on a different type of tablet or a PC or a traditional desktop. Mac, it doesn't matter. But here we have some applications, and you could take a look here that I have the Box application as an example here. I can configure different aspects of that Azure AD Premium integration, from single sign-on to account provisioning with Box, or a number of the different 2,400 plus apps that are in that Azure AD Premium suite that we keep adding to. And so I'm just going to show you all real briefly here too. If I go back, here I can navigate right here. I could go, and actually a lot of this is done here on the taskbar where I go new, and I could choose a number of different things, right? So whether it was a new application or a new other piece of functionality within Azure, I have those options as an administrator. And so you see I could configure multi-factor, I can manage other areas of Azure Active Directory down below there, or particular or specific to this applications component. I can add an application that my organization's developing. I can add an application from the gallery. That's what I was referring to with the 2,400 plus apps. And I can search in here, right? So I mean, say I'm going to look for ADP, right? If I go ahead and hit the magnifying glass here, this is going to search and bring up the various ADP apps, right? Say I wanted something from Salesforce, that I was integrated with. Okay, here's Salesforce, sandbox test, production, etc. And so I can go through here and look at these various applications. So I wanted to look at some of the CRM applications. Maybe I wanted to add, Dynamics here, right? So I could see, there's Dynamics Microsoft. There's some description around it in terms of the application URL. And if I was new to CRM, I could sign up for it here as well. Or if I had access, I could go ahead and sign right into it. But I'll go ahead back just for this example and pull up the ADP, time or HR application here. So if I select this one, I can go ahead and hit the checkbox here that I'm going to go ahead and configure the ADP Hr Benefits App. And you'll see it gets added here. I get some status on what exactly has occurred. And then I go right into configuring this. And what's nice about this is, as an administrator, I don't have to set up all the servers necessarily. I'm not having to manage those vendor relationships. I'm not having to necessarily call ADP and have them set up a trust for my organization. Microsoft puts a lot of this in place already for you, and it's at your fingertips. So I could configure, existing single sign-on, or using password or existing. So if I was using like ADFS, I could do that, or I could do just password single sign-on and be done. You'll see the options that are available here in terms of the integration, and you'll ask for things like our sign-on URL. And these are things that ADP will just provide, or that are available based on your particular deployment. but just for simplicity's sake, we'll just do password sign-on, and then we have that application configured, and then we can assign accounts. So users and groups. I could go ahead and filter out here, showing some of the groups. There I am again, right? And then I've got myself highlighted here. I'm just going to go ahead and assign myself. I want to enable this around, and I could do this in some more of the bulk type ways as well, in terms of bulk adding, removal, etc. So you've got some options there. That's sort of the Azure, AD Premium side of it, as it relates to applications. Talked a little bit about directory integration. If I was integrated with DirSync, such, I could manage that here. That's more common, to the enterprise environment, not something that's set in this environment per se. And then, I could manage some of the other specific aspects of this, particular domain. I've customized the branding. That's where I put my logo in, as you saw from the previous examples. Here, and I could go and change, how my banner logo, my square logos, etc., show up, custom text headings and such. There's descriptions here on what you're actually changing, which is nice. So that's, the areas of some of the branding around how you sign in. Authentication methods I'm going to turn on here. Remember, I showed you the two-factor, sort of two-phased approval, mobile phone, alternate email, and then, requiring users to register. There's a number of different settings in here. I don't really have time to go through all of them today. And then, reporting, getting some insight in terms of, what applications, this is what we talked about before in terms of an user signs in from New York, signs in from LA. What are some anomaly-based or unknown sources that users are signing into? We could drill into a report like that. We could look at password reset activity. We could look at, one that I always like to look at too is application usage. What apps are being used by what users, and you can look. I've signed into the Outlook Service for Exchange 355 times recently because I use it on my mobile device. This is actually my production tenant that I use outside of Microsoft. You can see my last sign in. I guess was in the middle of the night when my email was syncing because I was definitely not up at that point. But you can look at these reports in a number of different formats. This is one that just gives me a simple drill down into the user. Some of these are more graphical, based on specific apps. But you can get an idea here of all the apps. Here's the Intune company portal. Who's signed in on there to do Intune management, right? So I can open that up, and there's not a lot of activity here because it's primarily just going to be me in this case. But I can download and export that that particular report. So that's sort of the overview, of how it's all done. You can see you can move pretty quick through this console. You got access to everything from the domain's configuration, the apps, the groups, users, reporting and audit reports, etc., and configuration of your licenses, for example. But that's the Azure AD Premium component from the administrative perspective. Moving over to my next tab, the Intune side of this. I get a view right away. I have one iPhone managed in this particular tenant, but I would get a breakdown of everything that's going on. Are there any issues? No, I've got green check marks across the board. Nothing's really wrong here. All my apps, all my policies are in play. And let me just go ahead and re-authenticate there to the portal here. And so I'm not using single sign-on in this particular environment, but you can see that my branding is back. And if I go right back in there, that's the security timeout, that is set to, I think, about 5 minutes of inactivity. So this will reload the Intune console for me here. So just give that a second. And then, once I'm back in here, I've sort of got the whole single pane of glass, and I was drilling in this case to the status of all the mobile devices. But if I go back to the dashboard where I was just at before you saw me kind of click away and we had to re-authenticate, I have a list of all the devices that I can manage. I've got all the alerts, policies. I think it'd be more interesting to sort of drill in and show you kind of the drill down here as it relates to how we group particular users and devices. So I can look at all mobile devices, and it doesn't matter if they're Windows Phone, iOS, Android. I can manage all those different types of device types in here and get a breakdown of what types of devices. I'm going to go in this case, look at a particular iPhone device, and it'll give me information on that device, such as the operating system, mobile, who's using it. You can see there's a user ID there. There's myself. You can see a number of things here in terms of storage, storage and such on the device, how much is free, is it compliant. I've actually got some policies in place here, and I'll kind of jump over to show you those here in a minute. No real alerts going on. I think there's in action, assigned licenses. That was a broad message that went out for accounts to have a license associated with them. Apps. Let's look at, a big part of it, mobile application management. How do you create containers? So here I actually have, we recently updated our Outlook for iOS and Android to be fully managed with the Microsoft Mobile Application Management, or MAM solution, built in Intune. And you can see this installer type managed by the iOS app, and I can see a user has this application installed. And if I go look at this application, I can go ahead and view the properties for this app. And actually what I did here is I deployed and enforced the deployment of an application, and I provide a URL to Intune to go and pull that from. And since the device is managed, I can deploy that application directly to the device. And in this case, it's the Outlook iOS app. And I could do some other things in here. You see Concurs in here, a number of different apps that can be managed. I'm going here to sort of look at now how the policies and such, who's targeted. I got Exchange demo users. What's my deployment action? Here I'm actually, as soon as possible, I'm enforcing that app to be installed. This might be important when you're rolling out Office 365, you're rolling new devices, or as your all-up security strategy, ensuring that you've got everything in place. This here is actually the MAM policy. And what this does, if you kind of look, it may be a little hard to see, is restrict which web content, prevent iTunes, iCloud backups. I've turned on a number of these things, prevent save as. What this does is with Outlook on the mobile device, it's preventing them from saving outside of that general workspace, so that they're not going to be able to save outside of the work container, so that data doesn't leak. And so that's kind of the overview of Intune, right? So manage devices, deploy apps, enforce policies like pins, selectively wipe devices, look at reports here, in terms of what applications are running on out there. And once I do that, I get a report right back, and that'll show me some examples of, say, the iPhone that I was just talking about, and what it actually has installed on it, right? So that's getting reported back since it's a managed device. So, yep. Is there a question?
No, I was just saying that's great. I'm just trying to manage the time here a little bit.
Yep.
Was there one last thing you wanted to show?
Yeah, I know. We're just kind of at wrapping here in terms of the Intune piece, and being able to run and look at reports for different devices, and then sort of the last part, really just in closing, is right through the same directory space. You see here's the rights management component. So this is where we'd set a rights management policy up for our environment, and what that does is brings to light the capabilities for policy enforcement and management throughout Office, and such. And I could go ahead and activate that here, and then I would have access to that within my Office suite. But that was a quick overview, a lot to cover in a short amount of time from the administrative perspective. But I'm going to hand it back to the Agile IT folks here, and I'm happy as a follow-up to be able to share more insights into the EMS suite across the board with you guys. But I appreciate the time.
Absolutely, thank you so much. So the next real task is, and if you've been on previous webinars, we've talked about this before. So a lot of the things that you see that the IM went through is exactly what we go through in the POC, because most of the times, you want to see these work for a few devices. So we really target 3 workstations, 2 non-PC devices. So it could be an iPad and an iPhone if you want it, or a Windows phone and Android, whatever mix that you want, so that you can start to see that experience about pushing applications, managing the policies and rights management. So you don't have to. So essentially, we are kind of turning it on for your organization, but we don't roll it out to all the different devices and people. So we kind of limit the control of it, but you really get that full experience. So that's what the Agile EMS POC is. So really, that's the thing that would be one of the offerings that we have. Brian, you still there?
I am.
All right.
So Yeah, and just to kind of close things out, I know we're over time. We want to appreciate everybody's attendance for showing up to the 3 parts. We will have the slides going out, and the videos have been published for the first 2 parts to our YouTube page, and this one will be going up shortly. In December, we're going to have another webinar about protecting your data and files once you migrate to Office 365, so thinking about OneDrive and SharePoint and protecting that information as it moves to the cloud. And with that, I just want to thank you again, and hopefully we'll be in contact with you guys and some follow-up questions and ways that we can help.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar. We'll, again, for all those that attended, we'll send out links to the slides of the recordings. And thank you very much for watching. Thanks again, Ian. Thank you, Brian. And everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.